Do you ever think that there will come a time where you can stream FLAC files? And that's another thing with streaming. You have to think about how data is delivered nowadays, where the song is chopped up like I explained, but then the bits of information that are being sent in chunks as well. So, you know, you get some degradation there. And then depending on the your bandwidth and stuff like that, and how your companies want to serve it, and how the actual devices you're using, the browsers or the apps, all these different steps in a way are actually manipulating the music or the sound files themselves before it even gets to you. And let's say I'm on my phone and then I'm using Bluetooth, all that degradation up to there, or all those changes up to there, and then through the speakers that I'm using it, all those different parts, the speakers may even manipulate it in its own way. So it's crazy what's going on. I find this stuff quite interesting. I think about it all the time, and I try to keep up with what's next and, you know, stuff that happened in the past. You had to go and you had to buy the CDs, just like when you went from VHS to DVD. You either gonna buy it or not, right? And then when you went from CD to digital or to MP3 or whatever other format you could get, you take the CD, you put it in your computer or wherever, and you just burn it, right? Basically convert it from one thing, and then you still have all your files. Streaming. So if I'm with a streaming service and they say, hey, you can access this offline, not download. That's the trick. You can access this offline. If you hit the download button, right? It downloads it to your device, your phone, but it attaches it in a folder, or it places it in a folder that you do not have access to directly. So you can't really take those files, right? So from a CD, you could take those files or take that same music, streaming it, and then there's some that you can download the song, but you're still going to lose it all. Or you download it to a cloud or something and you have to pay for the cloud. That is where it is going. We talk about this all the time. You don't have the tangible thing or even the intangible that you always have access to, like those files. I just see that is coming, and hopefully you will still, the people who like vinyl, cassette, and CDs will still have those devices to play your music if that's the way you want it. So even with MP3s and stuff like that, it's still not safe, right? Because remember I told you where we used to always use Real Media or Real Player. When I use Real Media or Real Player and I had those files and I saved my oldest of songs, mid 90s, that I recorded on the computer, when I recorded them and saved them in that format, 10 years later, I could listen, right? 20 years later, if I hadn't converted a lot of them to MP3 or burned them to or converted them from Real Audio, Real Player file to a WAV file, and then burned them on CD, I would not be able to have access to even those songs. So in that same way, where you have your MP3s, you may not have the software in the future to play those files, because MP3 is even slowly being phased out, right? So a lot of people may serve up files of MP3, but you know, like those higher FLAC, you know, things come into standard and out of standard pretty quickly. We've seen that with CDs, and we've seen that basically with MP3s, where you don't own MP3s and you basically stream it. So I don't know, you may have to be careful with even your MP3s, and hopefully you will have somebody who will still keep the standard going and be able to develop some software 10, 20, 30 years to be able to play the MP3s that you still have around. So I do hope that you keep your equipment in good working order where you can play your vinyls and your tapes and your CDs, because we don't even know if there's still going to be manufacturers for that. It is much harder, and it will be much harder to be able to play those physical formats than it will be in 20, 30 years to create software that can play an MP3 file. And then things, computers and other devices like phones, if we even still have phones by then, right? And computers will change so much where you may not even have a way to store those MP3 files or any files that you have physically on your person, because hard drives and all that sort of stuff is going out the window. You will have to use someone else's hard drive in the cloud, because it all comes down to the business decisions of people who basically, in short, controls that technology and stuff, where, hey, you're gonna have to come to us for your storage of your files. And those MP3s, you're either gonna have to put them in someone's cloud and pay for it monthly, or you're going to have to be able to bring this hard drive with you somewhere. All this stuff is going away, even with cables. USB cables are going to go away. I'm preparing you. I'm telling you, you're going to remember this. If you don't believe me now, you're going to remember I told you. All these wires are going to go away, so you won't be able to use your external hard drive. You won't be able to use your SD card or your flash drives. You're going to have to find another way to keep this music or these files. I don't know what it's going to be. You may have to keep your little CD player somewhere. Keep a couple in case they break up. And you may have to start burning stuff now back to CD, because I think that's where we're headed. And you're going to remember I told you this, hopefully. People are going to stop printing books, because why print it when I could just make one file and just distribute it to 1 million people, right? That cuts down on the cost. And a lot of people are reading ebooks. So when you get to a point where this is my dystopian future, where we don't want people to learn certain things, because as corporations, we want to own this technology, right? We can lock out people, and you get into the whole net neutrality thing, like with the music industry and in the movies. All this, what we're talking about, technology has got it to a point where the layman or almost anybody can get into it and do it. You can learn to make your music better, learn to make your videos, your movies better by looking it up on the internet, looking at certain websites. Now we get to the dystopian future where the companies decide which sites are legitimate, right? Which learning institutions are legitimate. Where can I go to get this information that I need? And if you don't have access to get to the book or the website, then you just fall in line where you're ushered. Because even now we see that we're being ushered to certain channels on YouTube, right? Certain channels get priority through these corporations. If you go to Google, certain websites get priority, and it's just all happening. So yeah, the thing with books though, I like to, just like people say, I like to feel the book and hold it. It's really hard to get a different device or a tablet to hold and read, and then that light that just comes off of there, is kind of jarring at times.